There is a long history of video games based on films, television shows, and novels. While some of these were received greatly by critics and fans, the majority of these entries sunk into the darkest depths of mediocrity. In the 2000s, the trend kept rolling along with new films consistently receiving video game adaptations alongside the theatrical releases, producing similar results. Around this time, older films deemed as all-time classics also began to be explored in the world of video games. One of these films was The Warriors, one of my all-time favorites, taking place on the streets of New York as a local gang from Coney Island looked to return home safely after being framed for the murder of the leader of the biggest gang in the city. Rockstar Games, the company behind the immensely popular Grand Theft Auto series, was slated to be the group responsible for bringing the theatrics of the 1979 classic into the palm of our hands through a virtual 3D world. Would Rockstar implement gameplay elements from their other franchises into this new release? And how would the events from the movie be featured, if at all? My name is Aaron, and today we shall take a look at one of the most unique gaming experiences based on an equally unique and memorable film from the end of the 1970s. This is a tale of Rockstar's The Warriors from 2005. In 1965, late author Sol Yurick published a novel called The Warriors, a story largely inspired by the tale Anabasis, written by ancient Greek leader Xenophon. The main gang, known as the Coney Island Dominators, must return home after being involved in a giant meeting set up by Ismael, the leader of the largest gang in New York, known as the Thrones. Once his speech concludes, the police arrive and the attending gang suspect an inside job. Ismael is killed and chaos ensues, leaving the Dominators on the run without their leader, Papa Arnold. During their journey back home, the tale of Anabasis is presented in comic book form as a source of inspiration for the Dominators. While reading this novel, one can draw parallels to some of the characters from the film. However, it's a much darker tale than what moviegoers would be introduced to 14 years later. Those reading the book after watching the film first are bound to be shocked at some of the events that transpire in the story. Sol Yurick's novel serves to this day as an intricate examination of what it was like for less privileged individuals in New York at the time, a recommended read for sure. One of the individuals who enjoyed the novel was Lawrence Gordon, a producer working closely with Paramount Pictures in the 1970s. Gordon had acquired the rights to the story and was interested in a film adaptation. He would contact eventual director of the picture, Walter Hill, and ask to work together on bringing the idea to the big screen. Considering the possibility of the premise being too extreme and with a commitment to create a Western film, Hill initially declined. However, when plans for the Western fell through, Hill jumped on board and Gordon was still able to work a deal with Paramount on the proposed film. Similarly to the novel, the film would take place in the New York area and be shot almost exclusively at night. Filming began in the summer of 1978 and took 2 months to complete. The film would then premiere in February 1979. In this picture, the Anabasis story would be the greater inspiration for the film's direction, and the main gang would instead be called The Warriors, with 9 main soldiers being featured. Cleon, the warlord of the gang, played by Dorsey Wright. Swan, the second in command, played by Michael Beck. Ajax, Heavy Muscle, played by James Remar. Snowball, the Music Man and Heavy Muscle, played by Brian Tyler. Vermin, the Bear, played by Terrence Mikos, who has a YouTube channel archiving his solid news reports, by the way. Cochise, Heavy Muscle, played by David Harris. Cowboy, Soldiering the Middle, played by Tom McKitterick. Fox, the Scout and Memory Man, played by Thomas G. Waits. And of course, Rembrandt, the Artist, played by the late Marcelino Sanchez. Much like the Dominators, the Warriors are invited to a big meeting with other gangs under a truce conducted by the leader of the biggest gang in the city. He is known as Cyrus, the commander of the Gramercy Rifts, played by the late Roger Hill. At first, all seems well with each gang member becoming increasingly captivated as Cyrus's speech proceeds. Check it, everyone except Ajax. Oh, and this long-haired lad holding a gun. At the peak of a raucous ovation for Cyrus, the leader is suddenly wasted by the same lad holding the gun. Chaos ensues, and of course, the Warriors are blamed by the shooter and his gang. when Luther, played by David Patrick Kelly, and his rogues gang charge unsuccessfully at Cleon, surrounding Rift's members overwhelm the warlord and kill him with super-powered elbow shots. This death still sucks. The surviving warriors escape the premises and are faced with the grim reality of having to bop their way back home with the truce now off. The rest of the film presents a great blend of thrilling action, suspense, comedic moments, and visuals, with each gang omitting its own unique qualities. The warriors encounter the Turnbull ACs, the orphans, who are deserted by a lady named Mercy played by Deborah Van Valkenburg, the Baseball Furies, the Lizzies, an all-female gang, the Punks, and of course, those dastardly rogues. The picture is accompanied by one of the coolest soundtracks in film history, conducted by Barry Dvorak. It's a true classic that must be seen by everyone, entertaining from start to finish. Can you dig it? Over 20 years later, the idea of a video game adaptation of the film adaptation of the novel would become a reality. Gaming conglomerate Rockstar Games announced their version of such an endeavor back in 2002, a time when their big hit Grand Theft Auto 3 had taken the video game world by storm, and their adventure from Vice City would push the boundaries even further later that year. The development would be under the watchful eye of Rockstar Studio from the Great White North, Rockstar Toronto. You'd think that detailed coverage of a game based on such a beloved cult film would be all over the place on gaming sites, magazines, or shows such as X-Play back then, right? Well, it wasn't. In fact, other than the concept of a semi-open world, beat-em-up action-adventure game following the film's plot, very little else was revealed by Rockstar Toronto for 3 years. Would the game retain much of the soundtrack from the film? Would elements from previous Rockstar titles be implemented? Would the game feature new gangs at all? We would not find out until its release in 2005, when gameplay photos finally surfaced. At long last, fans got to see snippets of the iconic members from the Warriors in video game form. After seeing what happened to Cleon in the film, this image of him standing over a defeated enemy gang member must have been incredibly exciting for much of the fan base. It was clear the Warriors were coming out to play on the PlayStation 2 and Xbox. Fans would get to experience it all in October 2005. Damn, Viacom owns a lot of stuff, don't they? The intro begins and I still get chills watching it. In a fantastic rendition of the film's introduction, we are reminded to thank Rockstar Games for this wave of nostalgia and witness the unforgettable opening dialogue from Warlord Cleon before the Warriors board the train.
It's still on, and we're going. Cyrus sent an emissary this afternoon to make sure. Now Cyrus don't want anybody packed, and he don't want anybody flexing any muscle. So I gave him my word that the Warriors would uphold the truce. Now everybody says that Cyrus is the one and only. I think we better go have a look for ourselves.
Oh yes. The entire build-up to the meeting with Cyrus ensues, with the excellent Baseball Furies theme accompanying the visually impressive recreation of the film's opening. The little interludes with the other gangs making their way to the meeting are top-notch as well. Best of all, some of the voice talent here are the same actors from the film. Dorsey Wright, Michael Beck, David Harris, James Remar, and Thomas G. Waits all reprised their respective roles. The authenticity to the theatrics proves to be incredible here, and easily hooked me into the experience right away. Wonder Wheel! Predictably, the main menu follows the intro. The simplicity is what I like about this. Nothing but the epic wheel and a few choices to cycle through. We have story, extras, and quick rumble. Extras and quick rumble each present very little at the start, with the former only featuring a trailer and the latter providing 2 game modes, one-on-one and War Party. Quick rumble also showcases the ability to either co-op or battle with another player. Upon selecting story, the player is free to name their file whatever they'd like within an 8-letter limit. And I do mean anything, this is Rockstar after all. Once you've determined your epic name, we have flashy names for each difficulty. Sucker for the easy scrub mode, Bopper for medium, and Hardcore Soldier for hard. The adventure begins with another brilliantly crafted rendition of the film's events. This time, it's the big meeting conducted by Cyrus. Unfortunately, it is not voiced by Roger Hill here. Michael Potts does a solid job portraying the epic moment, however. Perhaps a little too solid. When the shot heard around New York happens, the game suddenly shifts back 3 months before the meeting at the Warriors' home turf. In a similar visual style than that of the ultimate director's cut of the film released the same year, we are introduced to the first 2 members of the Warriors, Cleon and Vermin, as if they were comic book characters with these brief still shots. These cool visuals would frequently pop up as you encounter more members and other gangs. Cleon interrupts Vermin's session of fuzzballs as there is a potential new member waiting outside. This turns out to be Rembrandt, a born writer who has the artistic talent to lay a mean mark. Vermin, however, questions whether or not he has the brawling chops to back up his artistry. This leads to the initiation for Rembrandt and the beginning of the tutorial for you. The way of the warrior proves to be an intricate one as the depth of the gameplay is uncovered. With the help of some local bums, we learn how to destroy suckers on foot and on the ground using basic, heavy, and signature moves. It gets even more fun when you learn how to deal with multiple enemies and begin using weapons. All of these attacks build up a meter on the top left corner, indicating the soldier's rage levels. When filled, Rage mode can be activated, increasing the effectiveness of strong attacks for a limited amount of time. The attacks also get more vicious, tailored around the character traits of each warrior. For example, Rembrandt's regular strong attack move from a standing grapple position is him doing Eric Cartman proud by kicking his opponent in the nyits and spraying him in the face with some paint. In Rage mode, Rembrandt does John Kreese proud by sweeping the leg and paying tribute to the Macho Man Randy Savage with a killer elbow drop to the spinal. After Rembrandt kicks bum ass, the final test begins as some of the warriors push you to the limit. It's quite satisfying to hold your own against these guys, especially when Rembrandt earns his new colors. Noticing the young blood's roughed up state, Cleon asks Vermin to help Rembrandt grab some flash. This is where the tutorial continues, expanding even further on the way of the warrior. Up next is knowledge on how to make some quick bread, breaking into jewelry stores, stealing car radios, and mugging suckers. The soldiering world is your oyster. And for extra laughs, you can grab any hat off the ground and run around wearing it. Once you have enough monies, Vermin illustrates how to effectively utilize the sprint button in this game by hopping fences, climbing onto rooftops, jumping through the window, to the wall, and smashing through dilapidated fences. All very handy skills as you progress through the streets. Finally, we reach the Flash lad who sells us the substance at 20 hard-earned dollars each. And look, he's in front of the Wonder Wheel! Also, you can let him keep his profits or take him back by kicking his ass. I tend to do the latter every time I purchase something from a dealer. When Rembrandt feels better, the 2 warriors return to Cleon. As the 3 members get reacquainted, a sudden interruption via shattered windows introduces us to the first rival gang, the Destroyers. These pieces of crap are from East Coney, looking for a solid excuse to get beat down every chance they get. With both gangs looking to dominate the entire portion of Coney Island, Cleon immediately springs into action and begins searching for the other soldiers. Oh yes, we get to control the Warlord. I still remember getting chills the first time I made it here, as I now had the power to dish out damage as my favorite warrior. The tutorial rages on as we learn how to lead troops with nifty commands. The map on the bottom right corner makes it simple for us to locate each memorable warrior from the film bit by bit. First up is Ajax, who is about to get some action before being called back by his war chief to engage in some real action. I love Cleon's remark pertaining to the lady involved.
Ditch the chick, we need your muscle. The destroyers are hitting us again.
Following this is a scuffle involving Cowboy, Snow, and the Fuzz. The 2 warriors are arrested, and in their infinite wisdom, the Fuzz leave them unattended. This is where we learn to uncuff fellow soldiers by mashing the trigger buttons back and forth until the job is done. If only there was a quicker way to free them. The next warrior who needs saving is Fox, who is sporting a giant blade while hiding from the fuzz. With the human mind programmed to look in the direction of a sudden loud noise, the fuzz take it a bit further by investigating the matter personally, after we learn to tell our troops to hold up and toss projectiles away from Fox using nifty aiming technique, sparing him the embarrassment of being cuffed. Before locating Swan and Cochise, Cleon decides to get some revenge on the fuzz by commanding his soldiers to trash their car. The mayhem command is quite satisfying to witness, especially when the others collect a bunch of loot for you. Cutting through the back door of this store and the alleyway leads us to the last two main warriors from the film, and the brawl with tons of jobbers, destroyers. The Wreck 'em All and Watch My Back commands are introduced here, with each serving their purpose in different situations. After the brawl, the warriors regroup at their hangouts, only to find a rather uncomplimentary destroyer tag marked over their burner. An immediate response is deemed appropriate by the warlord, commanding Rembrandt to pay the destroyers back in kind on the same night on their own turf. Meanwhile, at East Coney, we are introduced to the destroyers' leader, a crazy, unhinged bastard named Virgil, who makes no bones about his elation for the tag job on the other side of Coney. While he and his soldiers commit to a celebration filled with booze and broads, it's time for payback. Level 3 begins, and our tutorial continues. Ajax, Vermin, and Cowboy are ready to help Rembrandt live up to his reputation as a born writer. This level introduces us to the way of the writer, with loads of walls waiting to get bombed. The tagging itself involves you tracing along a predetermined line until the piece is complete. Messing up too much leads to more cans having to be used, so get good ASAP. As you work your way through the objectives, there are some funny interludes with drunk destroyers donating their alcoholic intakes to Mother Earth. After kicking their drunk asses, we learn that spray dealers offer cans for $5 each, and the player is limited to 9 of them at once. If you are low on money and run out before purchasing the total amount of cans you can carry, a good strategy to use is to slay the dealer, as he will drop all the money you paid him as well as an additional spray can. This way, when he respawns, you can purchase more with the money you've retained. Or you can break into a store and gain sufficient funds that way. That's possible too. There are also several bonus objectives that appear as you complete the game, allowing for higher scoring that can help you earn more goodies. More on these later. I also love picking up Cowboy's hat and wearing it myself. It's real funny hearing his reaction every single time you do this.
Give it back!
Once the main tags are taken care of, it's time to take it a step further, directly by the destroyers' hangout. But not before Ajax roasts the others when hesitation runs through Rembrandt's blood.
Ah, f***. Look, you girls can stand out here all night deciding if you're gonna go a pair of balls. I'm going in there.
Wait, how is the new blood gonna tag without a signature can? Another important aspect of the gameplay is then revealed, using the shadows to your advantage. With this at your disposal, you are able to incapacitate unsuspecting lads manhunt style, avoid being detected while creating distractions elsewhere off the map, and do a Batman impression by homing in on soldiers from the darkness. The final portion of the Way of the Writer is laying down a fat burner with 3 separate layers. The trace lines can be a little tricky here. The final result is exquisite. Ajax regroups with the others, and we bear witness to the glorious Virgil reaction.
I've been... The Warriors? The Warriors? I'm gonna kill those
The first Rift sighting! Here, the build-up to the eventual meeting begins, as Cyrus enlightens his comrade Masai on what he thinks of turf. Welcome back to Coney Island! The free-roaming aspect of the Warriors starts here as we are introduced to the Hangout. We can immediately begin the next level, check game stats, replay any level, access Rumble mode with the Fuzzballs machine, explore Coney's great outdoors, mess with the boombox, and look out! The replay levels feature is a solid way to check your progress, detailing specifically how many bonus objectives you may have missed. The unlockable goodies are found here in Rumble mode via extra soldiers to brawl with like Ron Weed, and more unique game modes as you go along. You can also create your own gang and name it anything you want. Let your imagination run wild. As for exploring Coney, this is where it gets even cooler. You are free to mingle with the citizens and complete further bonus objectives by helping out those in need. You can also thwart away enemy gangs at certain points of the game. Bonus objectives done in Coney help you unlock useful features such as bums helping you locate dealers, and keys for quicker uncuffing of arrested comrades. Woohoo! You may not be able to go much further than Warriors turf for exploring, but it's still fun to mess around with the space allotted to us here. When it comes to working out, you have a pull-up bar, 2 mats to do push-ups and sit-ups, and a heavy bag to work on your combos. By pumping your muscles, you're well on your way to increasing your fighting skill and endurance. It's highly recommended you do each exercise before carrying on with the story. The extra toughness will pay dividends later. And for more laughs, you can incite a brawl in the hangout between you and every single warrior, even if you're controlling Cleon. It's time for level 4 as Vermin and Snow take New Blood Ash. No, not that Ash. Not that Ash either. To check out some wool in Riverside. Problem is, a blackout causes things to go haywire in the streets. The 3 warriors engage in the lunacy by looting, destroying everything in sight, and stealing 3 car radios. In the middle of all this, the game suggests for you to use the new scatter command, but this is ill-advised since it'll be tough to find them all with the fuzz running around. While you complete this level, you have a bonus objective of tagging 7 Moonrunner burners. Once it's time for the warriors to bounce, we see the Baseball Furies! Sweet! My favorite gang other than the warriors. The level ends with the 3 warriors choosing to fight another day, as they'd easily be overwhelmed in a confrontation. It is then we see those dastardly rogues for the first time, with Luther not batting an eye over losing 2 of his soldiers and bragging over his looting prowess. Back at the Hangout, another nifty feature is launched, the ability to go back in time and relive how Cleon and Vermin formed the Warriors. These flashback missions continue to appear as you progress, but more on these later. Level 5 involves a gang of scrubs claiming to have knocked out the Warriors. Problem is, no such fight ever happened. Cleon, Fox, and some new blood head over to Tremont to see if these scrubs are as tough as they talk. Of course, it's the orphans, the bottom of the barrel in regards to rep. This level is one of my favorites, with Cleon dishing out some heavy physical and verbal beatdowns.
You orphans think you're heavy? You think you can take on the warriors? Then prove it, motherfuckers, prove it!
For bonus objectives, we have 5 sorry-ass orphan burners to bomb.
Damn! Don't let that fucker get away!
Eventually, the lieutenant leads you to the Hangout, where more ass whoopings are dealt.
Come on, chumps! Let's see some of the moves we heard about on the radio!
After clearing out more orphans, the same lady from the film known as Mercy appears. And yes, she is voiced by the original actress, Deborah Van Valkenburg. Thank goodness for that. Mercy informs you of the leader known as Sully, also from the film.
Damn, let's go. Stupid chick just sold out her man. Let's go wreck his ass.
I said you're welcome, you jerks! Ah, screw you!
It turns out Sully is the biggest wuss in New York, allowing the warriors to destroy his prized possession, this stupid car.
No! That car was my life!
What a chump.
Time for Rembrandt to pump his muscles and help out some of his Coney brethren. If you keep up with the bonus objectives outside, this is where you should unlock the Brass Knuckles, a big help for the rest of the story. Cleon then commands the young blood to complete the burner he was working on prior to his initiation from the first level. Once he does, he notices a flyer for the Riders Showdown down in Soho. Rembrandt enters the warriors into the competition without Cleon's permission, but the warlord lets some soldiers accompany him to build their rep. Scopes, voiced by DMC, welcomes us to the festivities.
Welcome to the Soho Riders Showdown! Now you're here because you're the best of the best, so you best be proving it. Boppers, are you ready to lay it down? Yeah!
The spraying madness is accompanied by an extremely catchy tune from Vivian V called Remember, as the warriors must be the first to complete a 5-piece burner. A good strategy here is to stock up on spray cans as they appear on the map before starting your burner. Each location is shown before the showdown starts, so pay attention. When Rembrandt emerges victorious, Soho's own hi-hats appear alongside their stuttering leader, Chatterbox. They take scopes out and ambush the competitors. Snow leads the charge up an elevator to incapacitate Chatterbox at the hi-hat's expense. When the mimes are out for blood, the warriors run away in an excellent chase sequence across rooftops. Coney's finest locate Chatterbox's gallery, a perfect spot to wreck before reinforcements arrive. Look at this stupid statue. While recording this portion of my gameplay, I barely caused enough mayhem by 1 second, and then my capture card quickly decided to take a breather. So unfortunately, I'm unable to show you Chatterbox's reaction, but trust me when I say, it's priceless. Aw yeah, time for Ajax, the perfect warrior to take part in this hardcore bonus objective. Woodstock mode, go! This actually increases the amount of flash you can carry with you to 4, a strange yet useful objective to complete. You can unlock dealers who sell you blades, a mighty handy weapon for a heavy price. Ajax then leads the way on a trip to Spanish Harlem, Hurricanes turf, to collect some money from a sleazy bozo known as Sanchez. He makes life tough for his forces by refusing to pay up, and the brawls commence. Each time his soldiers are defeated, he runs away like a scalded dog while talking mad trash. The chase concludes with a brawl against giant bosses Diego and Vargas, with the former using a giant pillar supposedly holding the ceiling in place, and the other sporting sunglasses indoors. This final area includes what has to be the toughest burner to bomb, even with Watch My Back activated. It's one of 7 tags for the bonus objective. In the end, Sanchez lowballs the warriors and pays for his sins. As someone who grew up in a Spanish-speaking family, I find this level to be extremely amusing with all the funny Spanish remarks thrown in the dialogue. Ajax with his savage verbal comebacks makes this even better. Another one of my favorite levels in the game. Only thing missing was being able to physically destroy Sanchez ourselves at some point before the final cutscene. To celebrate their revenge in Spanish Harlem, Ajax plays an intense game of fuzzballs.
Stupid piece of shit. I told you, man, you suck.
Great, Fatbox is back. The hi-hats show up to Coney uninvited, giving Cleon his first look at the mimes. The warlord isn't messing around as the other soldiers know this is personal without a single word. Chatterbox is determined to exact revenge on the warrior's own turf, something that can easily happen if you're not careful. These hi-hats are packed with lots of blades in the initial brawl, so watch yourself. When Fatbox fails, he and his remaining troops retreat inside one of Coney's attraction spots. In the middle of a couple of other brawls, the warriors must run away from a roller cart. Nothing like a button mashing sequence to get the blood flowing. The final showdown with Chatterbox takes place next to one of the roller cart tracks. I've had myself and other warriors get run over by this thing a few times to my chagrin back in the day. This boss fight can take a while due to Fatbox consuming flash and unleashing heavy attacks. Use the projectiles on the floor to your advantage. Once you complete this, Cyrus's lecture to Masai continues with an order to invite everyone on the Rift's network to a once-in-a-lifetime meeting. In a shocking twist, an officer named Randy cuts you a deal to take down a stalker in Coney in exchange for the ability to cuff anyone you want. It's also possible to unlock the hilarious Amphibian for Rumble mode. Seeing Cleon walk around with this on his head is so brilliant. The next level begins with a Coney lad informing the warriors of trouble in the streets. Turns out the destroyers are out for revenge over the events of the 3rd level, sparking up vandalism in 4 different stores the warriors have pledged to protect. Charlie's Plumbing Store, Stefano's Meat Market, Twiggy's The Little Buddha, and Skinny Pete's Voodoo Motors are all your responsibility. It can get tedious running around back and forth while the destroyers invade the turf, but thankfully it doesn't take many hits to take them out with brass knucks. When the young blood Ash doesn't regroup with the others, Cleon and Swan set out to locate him. Unfortunately, it's a trap, and the task of breaking this gate free with a sledgehammer is riddled with Molotovs hurled straight at you at the same time. The two warriors escape, and the game wastes no time in concluding this beef. Level 10 picks up immediately with Cleon declaring an all-out war with the East Coney suckers. Anything and everything affiliated with the destroyers must be eradicated, leading to an extremely fun time. The warriors wreck all their stores, their pimps, gambling clubs, set a dude on fire as a bonus objective, waste their lieutenants, and take the fight to their hangout. It's absolute madness, and I love it. When the remaining destroyers are destroyed, Cleon and Vermin must follow Virgil's junkie lad LC in stealth mode to take out the leader once and for all. The melee against Virgil takes place in 3 stages. First, he hangs out on a balcony and consistently needs bottles thrown at his head to keep him from retaliating. Second, he turns into an uppercut and low blow specialist, requiring you to keep your distance as much as possible while continuing to launch projectiles at him. Unless of course you want to keep being interrupted by this sublime camera angle. And finally, the last section allows you to fight him regularly. Other than the times when he goes into rage mode, he's pretty easy to deal with here.
I'm the boss. You was nothing. You was nothing before me. Nothing! Open your eyes, motherfucker. You ain't nothing but ashes.
With the Warriors now controlling East Coney, their rep continues to soar. It's time for Coach East to lead Vermin and Cowboy up to Pelham, Turnbull AC turf, to check up on Snow and Fox once news breaks out about a gang taking out an officer. Of course it's the freaking rogues who did it, of course! Okay, now witness the very clip that had younger me dying laughing for hours on end, thanks to this voice actor's excellent delivery.
What the fuck, man? I didn't do shit, you fucking
Shut up! Ass. You ain't gonna talk your way out of this one!
You bastards! I'm telling you I didn't do a damn thing!
Looks like these three are gonna need some bread for information on Snow and Fox's whereabouts at the Riff's Gambling Club, so carefully get the funds needed with the skills you've learned while avoiding the fuzz. Speaking of which, look at what happened here as I recorded this interaction.
Yo man, we got the cash. Now tell us what you know.
That was the first time I witnessed that, and I was laughing for a good while. Using some cutters, the Warriors tread through the sewers to get to the club, while we are introduced to the AC's leader, Birdie. This man on the wheelchair is responsible for wrecking Snow and Fox over at the club, naturally inspiring Coach East to take the fight to the ACs when Ajax arrives with reinforcements. This brawl that occurs during the concert is so fun, and the track that plays while you're beating the crap out of everybody is also real cool. You can use the instruments on stage as weapons against those bastard ACs to your heart's content. Once you get to Birdie, he pulls out some ammunition and a rather unique boss fight occurs. While he aims for your head, the other warriors are on the other side, free and clear. This is when you activate Wreck 'em All for them to hurl projectiles at the bird. Once he switches his aim to them, use the scatter command to hide them and continue the projectile onslaught yourself. Rinse and repeat until Birdie finally falls to his death down below. This can quickly become the most annoying boss fight if you're not on top of everything involved. Those gunshots deal heavy damage. Duh. And now we take control of the Cowboy. Cleon informs him of the gang known as the Saracens, who are connected to the Rifts, willing to work with the Warriors to take down another gang known as the Jones Street Boys for working with Crooked Fuzz. Up in Bensonhurst, Saracens warlord Edge, no not that Edge, lays down the objective for Cowboy and Cochise.
Boost a bunch of shit, plant some in the cop's trunk, stash the rest of it over at the Jones Street Boys hangout. You pull this off, we'll put in a word for you with the Rifts.
What follows is an epic one-liner from Cochise.
Those JSBs are screwed, man.
50 loot items must be gathered along with 5 car radios. You also have the option of tagging 9 different JSB burners, a task that is a little tougher than the other tag bonuses thus far. Once some of the loot is planted in the trunk of a fuzz car, Cowboy and Cochise then close in on the JSB's hangout. A distraction off-screen is needed to plant the remaining loot in their vicinity. Then, the fun begins.
Look, man, we wouldn't rip you guys off. We ain't stupid. Come on, man, we got a good arrangement going on here. You don't want to do this.
Open the trunk, Judas.
What? You guys got a lot of nerve.
No! Well. Just like we thought. You're under arrest.
Hey, look,
Get it,
I got
pal.
no... You guys got a pretty heavy set. You know, we've been thinking about inviting you in on this meeting Cyrus is holding.
Sweet, Edge has our back. Word of the impending big meeting is spreading all throughout New York as Cyrus lays down the ground rules to Masai, a solid build-up for what's to come. Before we get there, it's back to controlling Rembrandt as one of the biggest tag levels in the game takes place in a giant train yard. Scopes returns in high spirits, informing the warriors of the best trains to tag.
We got some new trains hitting these NYC lines. A few of them are easy, but some of them are gonna be a bitch to find. I wouldn't do no throw-ups, just burners and bombs. These trains go all city, but don't sweat it, stay calm, you dig?
You dig? Be sure to grab all the spray you can from these boxes at the beginning before proceeding. You'll need all the cans you can get, since all the tag jobs here require 3 layers. Along the way, the Moonrunners and the Fuzz will do all they can to ensure you fail. Because of this, level 13 can be a drag. Be sure to know when to fight and when to hide, to tag all the trains as quickly as possible. Predictably, the bonus objective involves tagging 4 Moonrunner burners. Thankfully, spray cans are meticulously placed all around the yard. The most annoying thing that can happen is your troops not watching your back during a trace session. Often, those Fuzz will club you and go for the cuffs fast. And sometimes, you will be cuffed for minutes on end, wondering when the CPUs are gonna come rescue you. Once the job is done, retreat back to where you came from for a satisfying conclusion. Here we go, Cyrus's big meeting is on, and the warriors are invited. After 13 levels of building a heavy rep, the best from Coney Island have been rewarded. By this point, you should be done with each of the workouts and have your sprint stamina boosted. Knowing what transpires in the film, it's bittersweet to listen to Cleon talk to Swan before they set off.
Round up our chosen delegates and meet me on the platform. If anything happens out there, you got command, Swan.
The rest of the levels of the main story revolve around the events of the movie, cleanly recreating the nostalgia in video game form. It's incredible hearing some of the actors reenact lines they had recorded on celluloid years before.
I only got one question. Who named you leader?
It was Cleon's choice, Swan's war chief.
Yeah? Well, right about now, Cleon's most likely got a nightstick shoved halfway up his ass.
Maybe we ought to talk about this later, huh?
What's wrong with right now? I want to be warlord.
Make you move?
In level 14, the warriors must split up thanks to the Fuzz. Swan and Snow are the ones you control and lead as you sneak your way through Turnbull AC turf to locate the rest of the members. 10 AC burners are also there to tag over for the bonus objective, and let me tell you, that is quite an intricate task. Ajax is the first to be saved from ACs, one of which is wielding a frickin' machete. Similarly to the JSB level, AC scouts are all over the place on the map and will quickly alert reinforcements if you don't take care of them right away. You also have the luxury of wrecking the AC Hangout before saving Vermin. Cochise, Fox, and Rembrandt are the last ones to be saved before an awesome chase sequence with the giant AC bus from the movie. This wonderfully precedes the well-known dialogue and sprint from the film.
It's a train. We gotta make it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
You gonna go for it?
Those were some desperate dudes.
So was we.
Yeah, well, we made it. And in an hour, it's CI, the big Coney.
Yeah, give me that fist, buddy.
Yeah.
When we get there, that's when we've made it.
Hey, no sweat, War Chief.
Now forget about it. What's the difference? We're home free.
Level 15 recreates the quote-unquote duel against the orphans, with a little reference to the events from level 5 being included in Mercy's dialogue from the motion picture.
Hey, Sully, aren't these the guys who trashed your car? You just gonna let them army right through here anytime they feel like it? Pretty soon every gang in town is just gonna boogie right in. Soldier right through. I'll tell you, some man you are.
Nice touch, Rockstar. As you march your way through these lame orphans' territory with the bonus objective of bombing 6 of their sorry-ass tags, the game shockingly has you battle them immediately. Well, don't mind if I do. After the most challenging fight ever, the Fuzz once again interfere and split the warriors up. Some have been arrested, others are wasted, and the rest are hiding in the shadows. In one of the most frustrating parts of the game, it's advisable to take your time through this. I've had moments where I've had all the warriors with me, be swarmed by the fuzz, and see them all get arrested again while fighting the officers off my tail. Be sure to take soldiers to this gate here during the mission, so it'll only be Snow you have to worry about freeing should he get arrested. Once that crap is done, look at where and how they placed Ajax on the street as Mercy takes her stroll. How does she not see him? The familiar scene from the film involving the orphans' empty threats and the exploding vehicle are then presented in all their goodness.
I got a question. How come we're running?
I told you, they were a bunch of wimps.
Vermin is sick of waiting for trains.
I'm sick of waiting for trains.
Did you know he's sick of waiting for trains? Sadly, this is where the Fox meets his end, and Rockstar Toronto doesn't hold back in recreating this moment. Swan, Ajax, Snow, and Cowboy then come across the Baseball Furies, and another chase is on. This was and still is so exciting to play through, as you hear the epic Furies theme song playing in the background. The recreation of this scene is beyond superb.
I'll shove that bat up your ass and turn you into a popsicle.
You get to bash Furies in the head with their own bats with Ajax and Swan. Now that is solid. After Ajax figured they were wimps, there's a boss battle out of nowhere with their warlord known as Cobb, most definitely referencing Ty Cobb from the early days of Major League Baseball. No, we're not talking about Ajax's final scene. Hey, check out what Vermin, Cochise, and Rembrandt have come across in the big city. It's the all-female gang known as the Lizzies. Yes, you are free to explore their hangout and witness some hysterical exchanges from Rembrandt and Cochise as they attempt to score.
Holy shit, man, I can't take this.
Listen, man, f off. I'm getting busy here.
Even the artist gets in on the action. Well, at least momentarily. Inevitably, we find out it was a setup, and the chicks are packed. Breaking through this door proves to be tougher than it appeared in the film. Meanwhile, Swan is on his own, and Mercy somehow finds him now donning a blue jacket. Van Walkenburg legitimately broke her wrist during the filming process, necessitating the jacket to hide her cast. The remaining warriors eventually regroup with these creepy-looking dudes on their ass. The next big brawl from the film ensues as you bop your way through those damn punks. Mercy must also be protected at the same time, naturally. Finally, the moment arrives where a diligent lad reports to the Rifts what really happened during the meeting. All it cost was 3 warriors, for crying out loud! Stillwell Avenue, the platform where Swan is dejected to return to after a long night on the run. Can you blame the guy? Another button mashing sequence appears after Luther and the Rogues arrive to Coney in a car with no seats inside, according to actor David Patrick Kelly.
Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play. Warriors, come out to play.
The Warriors and the Rogues face off on the beach, with Swan issuing the familiar challenge to Luther. In another shocking twist, Luther accepts the one-on-one offer and gets his ass royally kicked.
You're dead! All of you! And you know it! You're dead!
The final encounter requires Swan and Snow to find some cover while Luther wastes his bullets, and then launch beer bottles at his face while he attempts to reload. The dilapidated wooden gates in the middle are breakable after a few shots, so hide behind this submarine-looking thing when Luther resumes shooting. At a certain point in the battle, Swan pulls out the knife, and with pinpoint accuracy, Luther is finally detained. Those rogue boys are screwed, man! The main story concludes with the excellent piece from Joe Walsh entitled In the City, as the soldiers from Coney Island have finally gained their freedom. And in these shots, some of the warriors have buried themselves in the sand to celebrate. Funny incident that happened while recording in an otherwise fulfilling recreation of the film's final moments. How can you make this more epic than it is? By controlling Masai and wasting the rogues as the credits roll. Rockstar Toronto, you rule for this. Of course, the fun doesn't stop there. There are still bonus objectives to complete in Coney, as well as the flashback missions if you didn't complete them earlier. I personally used to save these until I finished the main story, so let's quickly dive into these now. As mentioned earlier, Flashback A showcases how Cleon and Vermin formed the Warriors. The two lads were originally destroyers, with Cleon wearing a hat instead of his trademark do-rag. This one does a nice job explaining why the beef with Virgil was so visceral. Flashback B is where Swan and Cowboy joined the gang after a unique session of King of the Hill. The object of the game is to reign supreme up top, longer than the other soldiers by Irish whipping them off, over and over again, on one condition.
Don't be a goddamn pussy!
The new warriors then begin to take over Coney by wrecking the same locations you had to protect in level 9. The irony is delicious. It's interesting to hear each store owner react to these new guys on the block before the reputation was established. And this junkie lad LC proves to be quite the junkie.
Whatever, man. I ain't got time for you dudes, man. I got a plane to catch. I wanna fly.
Completing this flashback unlocks King of the Hill in the Rumble mode. Flashback C shows how Ajax and Snow became warriors in the middle of their initiation. Being that Ajax is one of my favorites, it was nice to get one more level controlling him after the events from the main story. Ajax's quest for some action doesn't bode well for him or Snow, as they go to Destroyer Turf with their new colors and suffer the consequences. Rookie mistake, lads. In a prelude of the intense rivalry later on, the New Blood bop their way through East Coney to retrieve their vests. Maybe Ajax will learn to control his urges before it's too late, huh? Flashback D allows us to control the Fox and his backstory. The aspiring Scout and Vermin take the fight to Chinatown to settle a score with the Savage Huns, all while sporting some extremely pro-Hun shirts. Fox and Vermin trash some stands, tag some walls, make Solid Snake proud by sneaking up to an accountant, kick the accountant's ass, steal the Huns' gambling markers, and fight their leader known as Ghost. It's nice to see Fox get his own level, and some of the interactions between the Huns and the folks in Chinatown are amusing. Flashback E illustrates Cochise's initiation, as he and Snow invade Harlem to locate a dude from the Boppers gang with a head big enough to warrant a size 9 hat. Cochise shows exactly why the Boppers are too soft for him, en route to locating the giant warlord known as Big Mo. During this boss battle, if you take Big Mo's hat, you will activate this dance sequence. Hitting the correct buttons will spawn some flash on the dance floor. This is useful since Mo packs a heavy punch. Completing all the flashback levels unlocks this retro-style arcade mini-game known as Armies of the Night. The beat-em-up approach in the Warriors fits here perfectly, as this is presented in a 2D side-scrolling fashion a la Streets of Rage and Double Dragon. I even get some Tekken Force vibes from Tekken 3 while playing this. You don't have any warriors watching your back, so it's up to you to bop your way through 5 stages alone. Gangs from the 3D experience are all meshed into this nifty mini-game that includes some funny text when you reach the rifts. The little adventure ends with Swan taking down Luther again, and in a strange twist, the ghost of Cleon faces off against the ghost of Cyrus in a graveyard. Strange only because Cyrus really had nothing to do with Cleon's death, and vice versa. If anything, Ghost Cleon should have wrecked Ghost Luther immediately after Swan clocked his ass with bottles. Anyways, completing this allows you to use the ghost versions of Cleon and Cyrus in Rumble mode, among other unlockable soldiers. It goes without saying, but I love this game. I really do. My father sat me down to watch the film from 1979 for the first time at around the same time this game was released, and I immediately was hooked. Not long after, I had the game on both the PS2 and PSP, and spent tons of hours replaying each version through my teen years. What you have seen in this video was directly captured from the Xbox version, my favorite of the bunch. Rockstar Toronto did a great job recreating the scenes from the film overall, and I appreciated their storytelling approach and execution in regards to what led up to Cyrus's big meeting. The voice acting is solid, the amount of weapons you can use is awesome, tons of funny moments are included, and there's a fine line between elements from past Rockstar titles, such as the stomping animation reminiscent to the GTA games, and the unique gameplay elements introduced in this game. Tagging a bunch of walls and hiding from the fuzz can get monotonous, but when the real action is unleashed, the game is tons of fun. I also love how well Pat Floyd voiced the DJ in Lynn Thigpen's place, the late original actress. Each of the original actors brought back to reprise their roles added to the nostalgic trip brilliantly. For those of you looking to purchase the PS3 and or PS4 re-releases on the PlayStation Network, be aware that some of the soundtrack was scrapped due to copyright as of 2016. This may or may not hinder your experience. Still, they are both solid alternatives if you don't want to seek out a physical copy on the older systems. Regardless of the version you choose, however, it's bound to be a good time. It's been so fun covering this classic game on the channel with all of you here today. It's certainly one of my favorites on any platform, and I never get tired of revisiting it from time to time. Before you go, let me know who your favorite warrior is down below. Thank you for joining me on this fun trip down memory lane. Be looking good, boppers. Adios. Can you dig it? While some of these were received greatly by critics and fans, the majority of these entries suck. Yeah, they suck.